I'm standing in the doorway, my heart racing, as Fred's words cut through the air. If you're going to leave, then just leave, don't come back. The threat hangs between us like a challenge, the latest escalation in a cycle of arguments that's been spiraling out of control for weeks. But how did we get here? Fred and we've been together for 2 years now, ever since my daughter and I moved into his house. At the time, it was a lifeline, a place to call home after my divorce. Fred, a retired military man, had his own share of demons, PTSD, depression, anxiety, and a drinking problem that he struggled to keep under control. Despite the challenges, we made it work, or so it seemed. We'd go on dates, watch movies together, and spend quality time as a family. But beneath the surface, tensions were simmering. Fred's complaints started to pile up. I didn't spend enough quality time with him, I didn't initiate enough physical affection, and I didn't shower him with verbal affirmation. He'd expect me to drop everything the moment he walked through the door, greeting him with a kiss and a hello, no matter what I was doing. If I didn't comply, he'd take it as a sign that I didn't care enough. These expectations, they felt suffocating, like I was being measured against some unrealistic standard. I tried to make time for him, sacrificing study sessions and work hours to be with him, but it was never enough. The arguments started to pile up, each one a powder keg waiting to be ignited. We'd fight about his insecurities, his feeling of neglect, and my lack of availability. The conflicts would start over something small, but quickly spiral out of control, with Fred's drinking problem exacerbating the situation. I'd try to explain that I couldn't respond to his texts immediately, that I was busy with school or work, but he'd just accuse me of not prioritizing him. When I tried to open up, to share my feelings and thoughts, he'd assume I was hiding something, and the argument would escalate. It was like I was walking on eggshells, never knowing when the next explosion would happen. The drinking problem, it was a major issue. Fred would drink throughout the day, and many of our arguments would happen when he was under the influence. He'd forget conversations, forget agreements, and then accuse me of not following through. The memory lapses, they were frustrating, and I'd find myself questioning whether I was arguing with the real Fred or the alcohol-fueled version. The behavior, it was getting worse. He'd follow me from room to room, refusing to let conversations end. He'd block my path, insult me, and even punch walls and furniture. The kids, they could hear the arguments, even if they didn't witness them directly. My reactions, they weren't great either. I'd get defensive, yell back, and sometimes scream before walking away and hiding to get some space. After every fight, Fred would apologize, attributing his behavior to stress, PTSD, or his drinking problem. He'd promise to change, to do better, but the cycle would just repeat itself. I felt like I was losing myself, like I was trapped in a never-ending nightmare. The financial situation, it was complicated. Fred owned the house, paid the bills, but I was dependent on him. He'd remind me of everything he did for me, like I owed him something. The guilt trips, they were suffocating. I realized I had options, that I didn't have to stay in this toxic situation. My parents would help me if I needed to leave, but it would require careful planning. Fred knew I was thinking of getting my own place, and that had become another source of conflict. I loved Fred, I cared deeply about what he was going through, but I was exhausted. My mental health was suffering, my sleep was suffering, and my ability to focus on school was suffering. I was worried about the impact this environment was having on my daughter. Most importantly, I no longer felt emotionally safe during conflicts. The question was, how do you determine whether a relationship is salvageable when someone is dealing with addiction, mental health issues, and major medical problems, but their behavior is continuing to hurt you? Is moving out a reasonable way to establish boundaries while still maintaining a relationship? Has anyone successfully continued a relationship after moving out separately? I stood there, in the doorway, Fred's words still echoing in my mind. I knew I had to make a choice, to decide whether to stay or to leave. The uncertainty was crippling, but I knew I had to prioritize my own well-being, my own safety. The clock ticked on, the silence between us growing thicker than the tension. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. It was time to make a decision, to choose between the comfort of familiarity and the uncertainty of a new beginning. As I looked at Fred, I saw the man I loved, the man I cared for, but I also saw the behavior, the drinking problem, and the emotional toll it was taking on me. I saw the fear in his eyes, the fear of losing me, of being alone. And in that moment, I knew I had to ask myself, was I ready to walk away, to leave behind the comfort and security of this relationship, no matter how toxic it had become? Was I ready to take a chance on myself, on my own happiness? The answer, it wasn't clear, but one thing was certain: I had to prioritize my own well-being, my own safety. The question was, what would that look like, and where would it take me? Were you in my shoes? Would you stay or would you leave? And what would you do to establish boundaries and prioritize your own safety?
If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Drop your verdict in the comments below, subscribe for new stories every single day, and hit the notification bell so you never miss one.